talking with Tony Gioio today. He's another member of St. Joseph Catholic Community, and this is The Journey. I'm interested to hear his story, as I'm sure you are as well. So Tony, welcome. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I was very interested in how you described your family as a very traditional Catholic family, and I wondered if you might tell us what you mean by that.
Well, it was definitely Mass every Sunday. It was never even considered that it wouldn't occur. Matter of fact, when we would do cross-country trips, several times actually going from New York to California.
Wow.
And, to find a Catholic church in some parts of the country at that time was quite challenging. But every Sunday morning, we searched until we found a Catholic church.
Wow. So that's commitment, right?
So
yep.
It was, every dinner was a family dinner, started with grace. Mm-hmm. Again, so we didn't go through Catholic school educations, although we did have the Catholic catechisms, as we called it back then. Mm-hmm. It was a large family of 8, so it's, 6 children, 5 girls and myself, so I have 5 sisters.
Wow. We could talk about that for a while too.
If you want. It's interesting, yeah. But that's what I mean. It was
okay.
Parents. My mother was the main emphasis to make sure everybody pursued Catholic education. But my father was, again, he was there all the time as well, mm-hmm. and was very. He was 100% belief on it.
Well, that must have been very important to you, growing up with parents that are both devout like that. I mean, did you get that sort of that flew over onto you? Did that inspire you? Did that motivate you?
I wish I could say it did to my sisters. Okay, but no, for me, I truly never, when people say they cradle Catholics. I can't think of a period. I never had a period where I really faded away from the church. There were periods where I wasn't as loyal and didn't make every Sunday mm-hmm. after I started college and such. Mm-hmm. But I've been a practicing Catholic my entire life.
So what's your secret? I mean, a lot of families would like to have that happen, and so I'm saying, what really attracted you?
Well, my mother died when I was very young, not early 20s. She died at 56. Mm. So there was that period right then, because she was so devout, she died suddenly, that I did go through a question period. And that I did seek, prayer, guidance. I also went logically, is this the correct religion? I'm a scientist, so much of Catholicism is this, to me, it goes back to Jesus directly as the correct link. Mm-hmm. The fact that it was an international religion, and it doesn't vary from pastor to pastor as many of the Protestant religions did. Mm-hmm. So there was a mixture of just approaching it scientifically, logically, philosophically. I went at an intellectual level. It wasn't just purely faith. Mm-hmm. And again, but I also went back to those instincts that were instilled with me. Mm-hmm. Most of it was from the family.
So I'm interested to hear you call it an instinct. So was it because it was so habitual that you call it an instinct? I guess as a scientist you could give me a really long definition of what you mean, but...
I think that's a difficult, I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, it always felt the right way to go, so it was an easy decision to come to.
It felt natural.
So it was always challenged, as I would challenge it, it was always, obviously so many other people are not doing it. And as anybody knows that grows up during the 60s and 70s, there was constantly being challenged.
Oh, for sure.
And I was going to St. John's University, which was still one of the more conservative Catholic churches at the time, colleges at the time. Mm-hmm. There was still plenty of my theology professors there who were actually challenging the Catholic religion.
Okay.
So whereas I was studying it, where you think it would not have been challenged, it was probably being challenged the most.
So what you're saying is that you grew up with it, that it was just a normal part of life, mm-hmm. and then when you got to college, you had more of the interaction with people that were challenging it from an intellectual
Right.
basis.
The strangers, the philosophy professors also were priests there. They were supportive of the traditional. But when you get to the theology, they were more of, the Catholic Church and how it's causing problems in the world today was
Yep.
more of the courses I was receiving.
Okay, so the
Back-
critical look, right?
Back in that was the early 70s, right?
Oh, yeah, oh,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Well, I noticed that you minored in theology.
Well, you had to at St. John's. You had to take you had to have a minor in theology or philosophy. That was just a requirement.
I didn't know that.
Right.
How then did you survive all the criticism and, the intellectual attacks or at
I
least
was
discussion?
not like a lot of the papers I wrote for some of those theology courses to ever come out. I bought the easy route and wrote what the professor wanted to hear.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
So you're not really going to stand by
no, I would. Like I said, I'm glad most of those. I don't have any of those papers, and I
They're
hope
gone.
most of them
Okay.
have disappeared. Yeah, I was not a strong-spoken advocate for but I believed one thing. I did what I had to do to get through college
Yeah.
and get, because at that time I was still even thinking of a medical school,
Oh, okay.
and you needed that A,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
that wasn't the battle I was going to fight
Yeah.
at that time.
So you were headed to medical school, not the priesthood, right, at that point. And then you went on to have a science career, right?
Yeah, I varied away. I'd say my junior year of college, as far as I went to science route.
How did that interact with your faith as you went through your career, early to mid-career, wherever?
I met many. The scientists I felt teaching at St. John's, many of them were devout Catholics still. So I found within them to see that there was a balance. And the Catholic Church has always advanced biological sciences and chemistry and been in the forefront of it. So there's never been a real conflict between evolution and creation theories and such with the Catholic faith. So I never found a big problem with it.
So it's been compatible
Yeah.
for you.
And to me, the more I study, the more you know about, especially biology, every level becomes more complicated. And the deeper you study, the more you have to believe that it was not just spontaneous. There's some kind of logic creation to it, and it's more of a support of a divinity than an elimination of one.
Have you ever felt compelled to stand on the rooftops and share some of that? I mean, that's very exciting to me.
Well, in the classroom, you
Well,
have to walk a line between being fired
Well,
and...
that's true.
But no,
that's true.
but look, I teach anatomy and physiology. I've been doing it since '92. And there's always a little bit of that in my class.
So you got to walk the fine line again.
Right,
Wow.
right. But my students all know that I'm a practicing Catholic. And that we have outside discussions, but I don't get into it in the class, because I know I teach at a public, Montgomery College.
Right, you've got that.
Right.
Boundary.
I'm not at a Catholic university.
Yeah.
But my students do know I'm a practicing Catholic.
Well, it sounds like you'd be a wonderful person to have that discussion with, and we don't have time, and I
Right,
don't
right.
have the background to have it with you. But it's really exciting to hear that it's so much more compatible than even I think sometimes. Well, how then, going forward, did having a family affect your decision to actually join a parish? I think that was what you said in your bio, that you made that decision once you had a family, and I hear that a lot. How was that the landmark that you were waiting for? If that's the right word.
Well, okay, I'm going to be honest here, and unfortunately I feel that this is not, what kept me from not joining was a parent. Louise and I were married. I was a practicing Catholic. She was not a practicing Catholic. So whereas I was continuing to go most Sundays to church, she did not. But I knew she, as a heart, she was a Catholic. She had problems with relationships and problems, because she did go through Catholic school. So
her experience
yes,
was
her
different.
experiences were different. We went through, married in Catholic church. We were fully sacrament, but she chose not to go. I chose to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, baby coming, she had to now reanalyze. And of course, it was obvious to her at that point, and it's time for me to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we went back to approach.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
I guess having those children that you're responsible for then causes you to have to really make choices.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's what's, yeah, that's, you have to start asking what the truth is then.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I
Yeah.
questioned it, but now I have another life coming in, so it'll line here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess for some people, where children are not part of the family, they can put off that decision for a long time.
Yes.
But it sounds like you guys didn't, and you joined,
Mm-hmm.
and you've gotten active.
Actually, she got much more active. And if you want to talk about the missionary discipleship, she actually became one quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I was a practicing Catholic for much more longer. Okay, I now know there's a difference between just being a practicing Catholic and taking that next step.
Could you talk about that?
Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay, now because Louise quickly got into becoming a Eucharistic minister. She got involved with the kids at the Catholic schools we had them enrolled with there. So she would take the Eucharist to the nursing homes, embrace the kids even and bringing them up, incorporated into her doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I was busy working and being a Catholic on weekends. Okay, I was a member of the men's club. I did my thing. I was coaching baseball. I was coaching soccer. I was doing plenty of community activities, but so I thought I was fine. Okay,
It sounds like fun.
until my oldest son was at Mount St. Joe's, and he going into his junior year, they have a program where a Baltimore Appalachia Work Camp group, where a group of they and several other high schools and several other parishes would send a group of teenagers up with some adults to do work on help people who need work done on their houses up in Baltimore, and then another group went into inner city Baltimore, and another group went up to Appalachia. I saw a little ad in the back of the paper, the high school paper, saying they were going to organize that, and they were looking for adult volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been interested in that kind of thing, back in starting the Jimmy Carter days with Appalachia. Habitat for Humanities, I think was the one he was
Right,
with.
yeah.
Right, so that's something was always in the back of my mind to try out. That'd be an easy way to try it with my son. It's only a 1-week commitment. So I said, let's do it. My son did not want to do it. But you had the option that if you did it, you didn't have to do your religious project in your junior year. So you could get all of that, instead of having to do it all year, you can get it all out of the way in 1 week.
Bada bing, bada boom.
So
Right.
most of the students that did it for that purpose. But when we got up there and we met this community that had been doing this for years, this group, the adults that were going up particularly, and I mean Appalachia, I read about it, I knew there was poverty. So I had not a concept of what I was getting into, but it was so much different.
Wow.
And to meet a person that was so much need, and to be able to help them and work with them. I mean, this was an old mobile home that was literally so rotting and falling down that the toilet was falling through the floor.
Oh.
And that was the project I was going to work in. The pipes had all frozen. It was particularly hard winter before. And she'd had no running water in her mobile home. So she'd walked like a quarter of a mile to bring buckets of water back.
Oh my.
To just, even though the toilet was full, that she was using the toilet still, just to flush the toilet and use it. And she'd been doing that since, we were going up now in June. So for 6 months, this woman, I guess she was around 50, maybe a little bit older. So that's what we were going into the project to fix. And you met these people. We went in, did that. We did other work in her cabin, her mobile home as well. And at the end of the week, we were, you hear the saying, giving blood, sweat, and tear, but every time I go to Appalachia, that's physically what all of us on the site end up doing. We end up giving blood, sweat, and tear to the families that we're working with, and with the other people you're working with at the same time. So I found out that relationships where I thought I had friends and all these groups and things, coachings and things I did before, when you get down and actually working with people to help them, it's another relationship. It is almost a family relationship.
So a whole deeper level.
Yeah. That you find, again, it's a relationship that we all are the children of God. Okay, that's, this person, I didn't even know them, and now I've worked with in their house they welcomed me into, many adults, that first meeting is so difficult the first day, because there's lack of trust on both sides. And you see it develop over the week between the teenagers you're working with, a couple other adults, and the homeowner. It's enough that I've gone back now for 14 years.
Wow.
And my son. So it's not just me, my 16-year-old son at the time also has accompanied me back. And this is not unusual. Many of the teenagers, the adults that are now working there, started there as the high school students.
So you really, my mind is buzzing with thoughts and questions here. You really were Jesus to these people.
Yeah, one of the thoughts I had there was that you're helping, everybody, God gives everyone a cross to bear, unfortunately, and I don't understand that exactly why He does that.
It's a mystery.
But some of us have light crosses, which I have had, and some have had terribly heavy crosses. And for that week, I helped that person carry their cross. It's just a reoccurring thought I have when I am up in Appalachia. But I can take it off their shoulder. Because you can't do a single thing on your house. It's $1,000. Just $1,000 to these is, like $1 million to us.
Sure.
There's no way it's ever going to get fixed. So if you can go in and give them a working bathroom, again, this is something we take so common.
Well, it strikes me that you were then able to walk carrying the cross like Jesus did years ago during that week. That's the image I just got.
Right. Again, that was the image it wasn't just me, it was the other people I'm also there working with. Because, none of them would work this hard because you have 1 week to get the project done.
Right.
There have been times where you're removing an entire bathroom and putting it in again, or removing a kitchen. This is, professional contractors will come in, and this would be a several-week job. We're going to do it in 5 days with 6 teenagers. It gets done. I can't think of a week where I would see on Monday when we started demolition that I truly believed we would have it done by Friday. But every single time in those 14 years the project has been done.
What's going through my mind is that's what love can do, right? That's commitment.
There were a couple times on Friday where I was praying desperately to St. Joseph to please, the toilet was not flushing. Okay, it was 5 o'clock on Friday, and just more than once that I offered up prayers to St. Joseph. You've got to help me. I've done everything. If it doesn't work this time, I don't know what. And
he comes.
It comes
he came through. Right.
Oh. So.
Well, God honors our prayers, and He honors that kind of love and sacrifice, and you've experienced it in such a tangible way. And I think what you're saying is, for some of us, that's what it's going to take, a tangible confrontation with the need for Jesus, the need for love, to really, solidify our need for God and our need for each other.
But you get back, and again, it's cliche that you get back more than you put in. And it's not just the good feelings. I built through my actions with the Knights of Columbus here, where I also do a lot of similar work, and just service for the people in the parish. People, I guess, might know that mine stuff with the fish fries and some of the other events I do here. I built extended. Not just the people whose houses we went to. I'm talking about the people we actually did physical work with. Because to me, that's when you really build a bond with somebody, when you're working next to them, doing physical labor.
Well, you know, the other thing I'm hearing is that bond is important because you reached out in faith.
Yeah.
That first year, you weren't
I
really
went up
all
there
that sure.
not doing it for any idea that I was doing missionary discipleship.
Yeah.
And I went up there, it would be a fun activity to do with my son.
Little did
and
you know.
It was good activity, it was good Christian activity, go
Sure.
help on somebody's house. But no, I never had no idea of what I was getting myself into.
Oh, what a tremendous blessing. Well, the other thing I'm thinking of is you talked about face-to-face on the first day with the people, and how difficult that was because of the lack of trust. What flashed into my mind is how this is so true about God and us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't trust God easily.
No.
You know, and so, you know, there's so much of this that just seems like a wonderful way for us to understand God is there to help. We need to trust that He wants to, and that He's going to be there, and He's going to finish the project, so to speak.
And thank God that the people that are letting us help them as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way that I would let somebody to come into my house to work on my, you know.
Yeah.
And he admits up front that, no, I'm not a contractor. I've got some experience doing this work.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let these inexperienced teenagers come in and rip out your bathroom. But don't worry, we'll get it, you know, we'll make sure everything is fine. But
Whew, that's a lot of trust,
exactly.
isn't it? Yeah.
So,
Trust and humility, okay.
right.
Yeah. Well, Tony, this has been great. Now, what's next for you? I understand that you're moving from one ministry now on to other things.
We'll see. I mean, I was on the parish council. We'll see where Father John, there's 2 spots he's talked about me taking as leadership positions. They'd probably be committee leveled. And my hope is to use my influence to get the different groups working more together here. And use my feelings of brothership and sistership with the other parishioners here and raise that level.
Wonderful.
That's my goal, and whatever ministries I end up with here is to get, again, this is my church. I fully believe St. Joseph is mine, and I want every parishioner to have that same feeling that this is their church, where they want their children to be married. When time comes and we die, that they want to be buried from this church. That's the way I feel, and I'd like to see that spread through all the parishioners here.
Well, you are certainly a blessing and a great role model, and we're grateful that you're here, and we thank you for your time and your story. It's really touched me. I could really see you doing that hard work, and I appreciate your courage to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you.
Very interesting journey. And so that's Tony for his journey, and we're going to listen to other stories as they come along. So till next time.